Welcome to Allshorts podcast part 2. And if you haven't watched part 1 yet, that might be a good idea to do that first. The Vulcan Files leak reveals Putin's global and domestic cyber warfare tactics. But what is Vulcan? Vulcan's chief executive, Anton Markov, is a man of middle years with cropped hair and dark bags around the eyes, probably from excessive screen time. Oh, I know how he feels. Markov founded Vulcan, meaning volcano in English, in 2010, with Alexander Irzhavsky. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but hey-ho. Both are graduates of St Petersburg's military academy and have served with the army in the past, rising to captain and major, respectively. They had good contacts in that direction, the whistleblower has said. The company is part of Russia's military-industrial complex. This subterranean world encompasses spy agencies, commercial firms and higher education institutions. Specialists such as programmers and engineers move from one branch to another. Secret state actors rely heavily on private sector expertise. Vulcan launched at the time when Russia was rapidly expanding its cyber capabilities. Traditionally, the FSB took the lead in cyber affairs, but in 2012, Vladimir Putin, appointed the ambitious and energetic Sergei Shoigu as defense minister. Shoigu, who is in charge of Russia's war in Ukraine, lovely guy, not, wanted his own cyber troops, reporting directly to him. Now, we see this behaviour in our own government, which often fails to contain sensitive data. Or you could have a Home Secretary such as Suella Braverman, nicknamed Leaky Sue. Well, she's almost as dangerous. Well, from 2011, Vulcan received special government licenses to work on classified and military projects and state secrets. It is a mid-sized tech company with more than 120 staff, about 60 of whom are software developers. Now, it is not known how many private contractors are granted access to such sensitive projects in Russia, but some estimates suggest it's no more than about a dozen. 12, if you like. Now, we already know that Rishi Sunak's father-in-law's massive tech company, Infosys, works or has worked with Putin. And Sunak's wife has been taking a dividend from that company. Okay, I have to say allegedly that they're connected, but if the pieces fit, and it's like a 10-piece puzzle. Well, Vulcan's corporate culture is more Silicon Valley than spy agency. It has a staff football team and motivational emails with fitness tips and celebrations of employee birthdays. There are even, well, slogans, upbeat slogans. Make the world a better place. I know, let's invade a sovereign state. I wonder. Well, it all appears in glossy promotional videos, alongside special operational propaganda. Not war, apparently. Oh, okay. Well, Vulcan's promotional video, which may feature actors or other individuals not associated with Vulcan. Well, Vulcan says it specialises in information security. Apparently. Well, officially, its customers are big Russian state companies. They include Cyberbank, the country's largest bank, the national airline Aeroflot, and Russian railways. The firm's ethos is apparently patriotic. The leak suggests. Well, on New Year's Eve, in 2019, An employee created a light-hearted Microsoft Excel file with Soviet military music and a picture of a beer. Alongside it were the words APT Magma Beer. The references to the Russian state hacking groups such as the Cozy Bear and Fancy Bear, and appears to point to Vulcan's own shadowy activities. Well, one of Vulcan's most far-reaching projects was carried out with the blessing of the Kremlin's most infamous unit of cyber warriors, known as Sandworm. According to US prosecutors and Western governments, over the past decade, Sandworm has been responsible for hacking operations on an, astonishing scale. It has carried out numerous malign acts, political manipulation, cyber sabotage, election interference, dumping of emails and leaking. No wonder if Biden fits here, if it is true, that is, about his laptop. Well, we've seen a lot of this, haven't we? Of late, the effects of such cyber warfare. Donald Trump, Boris Johnson, the referendum, Brexit. All been interfered with, even the presidential election in France. Well, Sandworm even disabled Ukraine's power grid in 2015. The following year, it took part in Russia's brazen operation to derail the US presidential election. 2 of its operatives were indicted for distributing emails stolen from Hillary Clinton's Democrats using a fake persona. Lucifer 2.0. Then in 2017, Sandworm purloined further data in an attempt to influence the outcome of the French presidential vote. That's what the US has said. Well, the same year, the unit unleashed the most consequential cyber attack in history. Operatives used a bespoke piece of malware called NotPetya. Beginning in Ukraine, NotPetya repeatedly spread across the globe. It knocked offline shipping firms, hospitals, postal systems, and pharmaceutical manufacturers. A digital onslaught that spilled over from the virtual into the physical world. And we all felt the brunt. The system built for offensive purposes is this. A special unit within the GRU's main centre for special technologies. Sandworm is known internally by its field number 74455. This code appears in the Vulcan Files as an approval party on a technical document. It describes a data exchange protocol between an apparently pre-existing military-run database containing intelligence about software and hardware weaknesses, and a new system that Vulcan had been commissioned to help build, Scan-V. Well, hacking groups such as Sandworm penetrate computer systems by first looking for weak spots. Scan-V supports that process, conducting automated reconnaissance of potential targets around the world in a hunt for potentially vulnerable servers and network devices. The intelligence is then stored in a data repository, giving hackers an automated means of identifying tactics. Bang bang. Targets. Far cry from the days of the Yoshi virus. Even Norwich Union in the UK, before it was bought by the French company, Aviva. Well, they were hit with the Yoshi virus. It was a self-replicating virus that took up all the resources of the computer systems, and they crashed. Gabby Rancone, another expert with the cybersecurity company, Mandiant, gave the analogy of scenes from old military movies where people place their artillery and troops on a map. They want to understand where the enemy tanks are and where they need to strike first to break through the enemy lines, she said. The SCAN project was commissioned in May 2018 by the Institute of Engineering Physics, a research facility in Moscow region closely associated with the GRU. All details were classified. It's not clear whether Sandworm was an intended user of the system. But in May 2020, a team from Vulcan visited a military facility in Khimki, the same city on the outskirts of Moscow where the hacking unit is based, test the SCAN system. The SCAN is definitely built for offensive purposes. It fits comfortably into the organisational structure and the strategic approach of the GRU. Now, one analyst said after reviewing the documents, you don't find network diagrams and design documents like this very often. It's really very intricate stuff. Yes, this was all contained in the leak from the whistleblower. Well, internet control, surveillance, and disinformation. Well, in 2018, a team of Vulcan employees travelled south to attend the official testing of a sweeping program enabling internet control, surveillance, and disinformation. The meeting took place at the FSB-linked Rostov-on-Don Radio Research Institute. It's subcontracted Vulcan to help in the creation of a new system dubbed AMZIT, which was also linked in the files to the Russian military. Now, a lot of people worked on AMZIT. Money and time was invested. A former employee recalled other companies were involved as well, possibly because the project was so big and important. Vulcan played a central role. It won an initial contract to build the AMZIT system in 2016, but documents suggest parts of the AMZIT were, well, still being improved by Vulcan engineers. Well, in 2021, with plans for further development in 2022. One part of AMZIT is domestic-facing, allowing operatives to hijack and take control of the internet if unrest breaks out in the Russian region, snubbing out any dissent. Internet traffic, deemed to be politically harmful, can be removed before it has a chance to spread. Now, since last year's invasion of Ukraine, Russia has arrested anti-war protesters and passed punitive laws to prevent public criticism of what Putin calls a special military operation. Not too dissimilar to our new protest bill in the United Kingdom. The Kremlin was already known to have made use of its disinformation factory. The St Petersburg-based Internet Research Agency, which has been put on the US sanctions list. The billionaire, Yevgeny Prigozhin, Putin's close ally, is behind the mass manipulation operation. The Vulcan Files show how the Russian military hired a private contractor to build similar tools for automated domestic propaganda. This AMZIT subsystem allows the Russian military to carry out large-scale covert disinformation operations on social media and across the internet through the creation of accounts that resemble real people online, or avatars. I do wonder sometimes if they're avatars that we have in the British government, such as Kemi Baddock. Well, you know how it is. If you want to make your way to the top, you have to agree with the far right. You have to say things like, racism doesn't exist. There's no such thing as misogyny. Kemi Bandadoc, well, she's a curious creature. And these avatars have names and stolen personal photos, which are then cultivated over months to create a realistic digital footprint. A virtual ID, you could say. The leak contains screenshots of fake Twitter accounts and hashtags used by the Russian military from 2014 until earlier this year. They spread disinformation, including a conspiracy theory about Hillary Clinton and a denial that Russia's bombing of Syria killed civilians. And then we have sarin gas. Following the invasion of Ukraine, one Vulcan-linked fake Twitter account, well, it posted, Exxon leader, hashtag Putin. I wonder if it has anything to do with Elon Musk. If they were taken down, I'm sure he'll reinstigate their account. Probably. Well, another Vulcan developed a project linked to Azmet is far more threatening, and it's codenamed Crystal 2V. It is the training platform for the Russian cyber operatives, capable of allowing simultaneous use by up to 30 trainees. It appears to simulate attacks against a range of essential national infrastructure targets. Railway lines, electricity stations, airports, waterways, posts, control systems. Yes, that fire sale once again. And this brings us on to the ongoing security risk. The intrusion and destructive nature of the tools that Vulcan has been hired to build raise difficult questions for software developers who have worked on these projects. Can they be described as cyber mercenaries? Because I wouldn't be surprised that emphasis falls under that term. Or maybe they're just Russian spies. Some almost certainly are. Others are perhaps mere cogs in a wider machine, performing important engineering tasks for their country's cyber-military complex, like lemons, following orders disguised as patriots. Patriots? I don't think so. A patriot is loyal to their country or monarchy, not some tin-pot dictator with a massive mansion that's been funded by the Russian taxpayer. Vladimir Putin is probably the richest man in the world. Well, until Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Vulcan staff openly travelled to Western Europe, visiting IT and cybersecurity conferences, including a gathering in Sweden to mingle with delegates from Western security firms. Spies, maybe. Well, this brings me on to what happened to the UK motoring industry. Japan sent over its delegates to see how we built cars in the UK. And we can all see what happened. They started building better cars than we could. Undercut us, and we allowed it to go on. Well, the former Vulcan graduates now live in Germany, Ireland and other EU countries. Some work for global tech corporations. 2 are Amazon Web Services and Siemens. Well, Siemens, they were contacted for comment, but they declined. They said they can't talk about individual employees, but said such questions they took very seriously. Amazon said it implemented strict controls and that protecting customer data was its top priority. They probably didn't even know. It is unclear if the former Vulcan engineers now in the West pose any kind of security risk, probably, and whether they have come to the attention of Western counterintelligence agencies. Probably not before the leak. Most, it would seem, have relatives back in Russia. A vulnerability known to have been used by the FSB to pressure Russian professionals abroad to collaborate. Contacted by a reporter. One ex-staffer expressed regret at having helped Russia's military and domestic spy agency. To begin with, it wasn't clear what my work would be used for, they said. Over time, I understood that I couldn't carry on and that I didn't want to support the regime. But I was afraid that something would happen to me, or I would end up in the gulag. There are enormous risks, too, for the anonymous whistleblower behind the Vulcan Files. The Russian regime is known for hunting down those it regards as traitors or political opposition, and poison their underwear. They have presidents, you know. Well, in their brief exchange with a German journalist, the leaker said that they had taken life-changing precautions. They had left their previous life behind them. That's what they said. And they now exist as a ghost. The end. For now. Ta-ta. I would like to thank the whistleblowers. Without these patriots, these antics by corporations, billionaires and governments, to perverse the course of political direction. Traitors, you could say. They're definitely not patriots. But these individuals certainly are. Without them, we'd be, well, clearly in the dark. I'd also like to thank Luke Harding, Stiliana Simonova, Benishka Ganguly and Dan Sava, who has collaborated to produce this article that was published in The Guardian, for which this podcast was based on.